Hi, I'm Aleesha,
And I'm Danielle.
and welcome back to another episode of She's of STEM.
The She's of STEM is a podcast series that will be discussing women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. On
Mm-hmm.
here, we're going to be discussing women's issues, current events, and how they pertain to STEM, how we can change the scientific culture, and talk about the people who are already doing that.
Yep, and today I'm actually pretty excited for this episode. We're
Me too.
actually talking about augmented reality,
Woo!
and obviously, us being the She's of STEM, we're going to put our own twist on it, and we're going to do how women can be involved in AR, and on top of that, how actually AR is super beneficial to younger children, especially girls, to get them more into STEM subjects. And we're also going to explain all about how younger girls, how what we can do our part to get younger girls into STEM.
Yeah, because it's all going to start with us.
Yep. So let's get straight into it then. Okay, so I actually found a pretty interesting article on the Christian Science Monitor, which is the most randomest thing. I didn't even know it was a thing before. I didn't know Christian and science could go together, but it's so good though. The
Of course
article
we
is
can. Of course they can. That should be another topic. We'll talk about that
yeah.
another day.
Yeah, let's not get too deep into the politics of religion. But the article is actually amazing, and it's actually called "How to Make Science Experiments as Accessible as Bedtime Stories," and
Love
it's
it.
all about getting us um, bringing the science at home. I think that's the message that it gives, because God knows when the school curriculum will change and all of that. So that's a long process. So it actually
Yeah.
starts off with us getting science in the home, getting kids to enjoy science, and that's actually the first step. So it's actually about how a lot of parents don't touch science. So I think a lot of parents do read with their kids and they do teach them the basics of maths, but they don't really touch science because they feel like they lack knowledge. And because they're not scientists, they don't have this ability to teach their kids about science and get them engaged in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually all about how it's not actually about teaching them the science, it's more about getting them engaged, increasing their
Yes.
critical thinking
Yes.
and increasing their curiosity, because that's what science is really about. And it's all about looking at normal everyday things in life and seeing that science is everywhere and it's actually really accessible.
Yeah, and it's accessible to everyone, and parents shouldn't be intimidated, like trying
No,
to teach their kids science because you're not supposed to have all the answers. And
no.
the great thing about science is that you get to go discover and get curious and ask those questions.
Yeah, and it actually says that I know I'm not a mother, but obviously it can be hard just doing everything. So reading to your kids or teaching them so many life skills at once. So science can seem like it's like an extra burden added on top of that. But the article actually explains how a task simple as cooking can be taken, like you can add a science twist on it. You can actually say you can actually tell your children how the materials are changing and the properties of the material are changing, and how something can be liquid and then it can be solid and then it can turn into gas. Or do you get what I'm saying? So it can be
Yeah.
actually integrated into things that you would usually do with kids,
Mhm.
like running or swimming, or you could talk about acceleration and force and that sort of stuff. And it's about just getting them to ask those questions, like, the common one, like, why is the sky blue, or why
Yeah.
is this thing, or why do we do things the way that we
Yeah.
do, because that's actually what science is all about.
Yeah.
So
And if you start getting them to like ask those questions and you're upfront and honest with them and saying like, "Hey, I don't know the answer to that either. Let's find out together." And then
yeah,
you take this teaching into a learning experience for both of you. And
yeah.
we have technologies at our fingertips, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is the sky blue? Google it and you got
Yeah,
an
just
answer.
Google it.
Yeah, so it's
That's a
teaching
nice thing to teach
science,
your
I
kids.
feel like has
Just Google
never
it.
been yeah, has never been more accessible.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, just getting them interested. And like Aleesha's saying, like if you're swimming, you know, you can talk about acceleration and force, but you don't even have to use
Those
those
fancy
words.
scientific, yeah.
Yeah, you can just talk about, you know, like
Like, why is it that
why.
when you swim, like, what's that? Like, you feel something against you, or just like it's just literally building curiosity, so they
Hmm.
can just implement that in their classrooms as well.
Yeah.
So, obviously, what goes on at home, they can easily just go on and do that in their classrooms and in their everyday lives. And I think that's like one of the first stepping stones in getting kids to engage in science more and do science more. And
Yeah.
you know what I found that was really surprising, that I guess I didn't
What?
think of myself before, was when people say that they're not really a science person, or that they're not really a maths person. It said that terms like that we should actually finish off, because science is so integrated in our day-to-day lives that
Yes.
you cannot not be a science person. Like, everyone's their
Yeah.
own scientist in their own way. If you go really deep into it, if you go into like subjects like art or geography or even English, they all have their own science to it and their own critical thinking to it.
Yeah.
So there should be a level of that critical thinking, of a level of that scientist in everyone.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying. So it actually, I feel like it helps kids learn more and it helps them grow more, and
Yep.
that's what we want. Basically, that's what we want our kids to be, like the thinkers, the doers, the that kind of thing.
Right. And yeah, and it's like disbanding those words like, oh, I'm not a math person, I'm not a science person. It's like you are though. Like, do you ask
Mm-hmm.
questions? Are
Yeah.
you a curious person? Like, do you, you know, poke into people's lives, or like you know, do you show that you care by asking questions and doing things like that? Then yes, you're a scientist. Like, we're all scientists because we're all human. We all
Yeah.
ask questions and we all poke around our world and be like, oh, I wonder like why this um is this way.
Yeah, and I feel like those basic science skills can be applied to everyday life and can be applied to different fields. So I feel like it is important for every child, no matter what they go into, to be curious and to ask those questions, and to develop those lifelong skills.
Yeah.
And Danielle actually had a really interesting app, and you talk about as well. Do you want to talk about how your app and how that's important for kids as well?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So it's not my app. I didn't create it. I just want to.
No, but the app that you
Yeah,
we
yeah,
talked discussed about
yeah.
before.
I wish though. And so yeah, this app is, I feel like it's a great way to kind of introduce your kids into science and into design and into making things, because it's all about spatial recognition. And this app was not created for the purposes that we're going to talk about, but I just think that it could be so beneficial in teaching and tutoring and
Mm-hmm.
just getting your kids excited. So this app is called Mirage Worlds, and it's a free app that you can download on your phone. And I've been playing around with it a little bit, and it's augmented reality. So it's AR, and
So what's
you
AR for the people that have no idea what AR is?
yeah. So AR is, or augmented reality is, this technology that superimposes a computer generated image onto the viewer's view of the real world. So if I take my phone and I start like taking a video of something, or if I just take my phone and use the camera, I can put, augmented reality is where you put fake things, or things that don't actually exist. They're not objects with like a mass or anything. They're in the interwebs. And then you can put that out onto the world that you're seeing. So that's what Mirage does. So
Is it like that Snapchat filter? You know, like the little dancing dude or the hot dog?
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's like. So if you go to Snapchat and you have like that bunny that's twerking, or like the broccoli that's dancing, you can put that onto like surfaces or onto people or onto just in random space, and you can see it and you visualize it in your real world. So that's what AR does, is augmented reality. It's taking the reality you already see and then changing it. And there's lots of other games and stuff that's happening right now.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's really fun, and you can like find people by location and see like the other things that they're creating, and you can just kind of play around with it. And so if you go into Mirage World and you like and you're like looking at your desk through the Mirage camera, you can put like emojis on it that are 3-dimensional. You can put words, you can put hands and shapes, and you can then like walk around that room, because say I put like a smiley face like right in front of my face, and then I walk around the smiley face, like you're going to see the back side of it. You're not and you can walk around
so cool.
It's so cool. And like AR,
it's like your own little world that you're creating. Basically.
Yeah, you're creating your own little world. And I think that this is really important for spatial recognition, especially for girls, because one of the reasons why females start to leave their engineering courses and their math courses is when they get into classes that deal with 3D objects and 3D visualization. Because as girls, like, we play like house, and we play more maternal activities, and we view the world visually and through sound, rather than like getting our hands on stuff, because that's just the way that we're made. But boys, they typically grow up like working with things, and they explore their world with their hands. So they go around and they're picking things up and they're throwing things, and they're feeling and measuring. And a lot of the times boys are working with their father figures and like building things, so they're measuring stuff. They understand like, oh, a foot or a meter is this long. But girls don't really get that exposure because of the way society is, and all the other problems that we're not going to get into right now. But it's not that those things aren't can't be learned. You just have a higher learning curve as a girl. And so if you have something like augmented reality, and you can put something into this space and then explore it without actually having to touch it or be there, and you can create this whole world, so you get that that fun creative aspect to it, but you're also learning those spatial recognition skills, and being like, okay, if I put this here and I make it this big, this is how much space it's going to take up. Or if I shrink it down here, like, and you get to play with and walk around and just see.
You're literally learning without even realizing. So it's like you're playing a game, but you're actually developing those crucial skills, again, that are so important at such a young age. And you're not even realizing. I think it's the same way when guys play with building blocks or play with their fathers or get hands on. They don't realize it, but they're building and they're developing those skills that are so important in your later years in life, especially if you're going into like a STEM subject or a really creative and hands-on subject. So you don't even realize it, and you're developing those kind of like, it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And we all come like, the way that we're in the world, like nurture and nature, we all come and bring different skills to the table. And it just because of the way that boys are playing and the way that girls are playing, they're developing these different skills, and you don't even realize it, because it's play, it's fun. And so I think that's you hit it right on the head. That's exactly right. It's like you're learning
Yeah.
but playing. And I think that when
Yeah.
you have an app like Mirage World, um, it's just a fun thing you do on your phone. It
Yep.
doesn't have to
Yep.
be hard, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's not even
Mhm.
engineering based. Like, you're not measuring anything. It's
No.
just very
Yeah.
like, put this in the world and like see what happens. And so
And that's so true. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I think that AR is just going to be it is, and it's going to continue to be this huge asset in giving the younger generation the tools to create
Definitely.
and invent the space around them. And AR
Yeah.
and virtual reality, they aren't just for visualizations. Like, people are creating in these spaces, and um, there's engineering companies are trying to get these technologies into the design space, so you can actually be like in a room with people, or not in the same room with people, and
I like what you did there.
thank you, and designing this, like a car, or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
project.
The possibilities for it are
Yeah.
endless, and I feel like, especially with younger kids, all about improving STEM education is finding ways to engage all types of learners.
Yes.
So not everyone learns by reading off a piece of paper, and it's not like this one thing that is taught in school. So one way of accomplishing this and getting kids more involved in it is going on apps and being physical with it and doing stuff rather than reading stuff off a board or reading stuff off a textbook.
Yeah.
And there's actually loads of schemes when I looked into it. Well, not loads, but there are a couple of schemes that deal with AR and virtual reality,
Hmm.
and they actually cater it to younger children, and especially girls, because again, it shows science in a different light.
Yeah.
um a lot of kids realize, like, whoa, this is science. Like, we're building stuff, we're building shapes, we're like doing all these things, and it's actually science. And on top of that, it gets the art of like storytelling, it gets your creative juices flowing, basically. So it
Completely.
actually attracts a whole different type of learners. Like, I only used to think you could be creative with like English, where you could make all these different types of stories. um a lot of people always think, and especially children think, that with sciences there's only one right answer.
Right.
Like, 2 + 2 is 4, that's it, and there's no other type, and that is maths. Like, it's on a piece of paper and you can't like question it. Whereas AR and stuff like that, they actually show a different light to science. And there's actually a researcher called Kat Stylinsku in Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences, and she actually does a whole program where she gets teenage girls into science and technology through using AR, and it's pretty
That's
interesting
awesome.
because she actually targets art art students.
Really?
So she actually, yeah, so it's like someone who wouldn't even be remotely interested in science, or you would think they wouldn't be remotely interested in science.
Right, because of the
She
path
gets
they
them.
took. Yeah.
Yes, so she actually goes to local art organizations, and she recruits the teens that are interested in art,
Hmm.
and she actually shows them that science can have its artistic side as well. And it actually shows how those subjects can be easily overlapped, and you can have an interest in art and you can easily go into science, and you can easily go into those kind of programs. So when I read about that, I found that so interesting, where someone who, or teenagers or girls who wouldn't think of doing science,
Yeah.
after doing that program, after doing that course, might be interested now, or might be like, wait, I can go into science, I can go into computer science, or I can do like that sort of stuff. I can go into like the nitty gritty stuff and still have that artistic element to it.
Right.
And that's why I found it so interesting.
And I love that, just bringing the creativity to science, or not even
Yeah.
bringing it to science, unveiling that there
Yeah.
is creativity in science, and like taking those super creative people, like self-proclaimed artists or people who went to school to be artists, and being like, yo, this is science and it's creative and you're needed in it as well. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's a place
And
for you.
especially at that age when they're teenagers as well, so they still like can choose their degree, they still have options like
Right.
to do what path to go for. So it's interesting because that age is pretty like you either go for science or you don't
It's pretty
usually you
binary.
don't see yeah you don't usually see people like in their 30s or 40s switching completely and going into science. So that's why I feel like it's so important to show primary and teenagers and those kind of kids like a completely different side to science,
Yeah.
especially at that age.
Yeah. No, I think that that's so cool. And I'm so happy that there's other people out there, you know, doing that
Yeah,
and
definitely.
showing that creative side, because it's so important.
Mm-hmm. And you found out the tell us about that really cool AR virtual reality company.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to talk to you guys about this company, but more about the person who founded it, and like
Yeah.
how she sees that AR is so important in today's education and into today's space,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing girls into science. So there are not a lot of women in this space. Just like there's not a lot of women
No.
in STEM in general.
Yeah.
But AR is this new technology that we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. So there are not a lot of women, but there are women who are founding these companies in this space. And one of these women is Amber Cordeaux. She's from Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
Australia, and she founded a company called Humanus. Don't know how to pronounce it. I butcher everything. I'm sorry.
I'm the same. Yeah, even I couldn't pronounce
It's
that
spelled
if I tried.
Humense. So take your best
Mm-hmm.
shot. So this company is empowering the sense of seeing and being with another human being via digital realities, so commonly known as AR and VR.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is directly from their LinkedIn. So this is their explanation of humanist. So I wanted to read that to you guys. So it says, whereas 360 video positions the audience in a 3D position with a minimal impact and nobody, volumetric video holographic presence enables you to walk around inside the video and be in the scene and with other people in a spatially and neuropsychologically true sense. So you feel like you're there, you feel like you're exploring it, and that's why AR and VR is so cool. So Humanist enables you to experience embodiment and shared impact when you're in this new world or augmented world.
Mm-hmm.
So their co-founder Amber,
Yeah.
she, like I said, she's from Australia, and so it's the company
Mm-hmm.
that's creating the platform and the tools for volumetric video creation and sharing for augmented
Mm-hmm.
and virtual reality. Um, and so I think I found Amber's story interesting because her background isn't just science, and so I think it plays into really well what we were just talking about of
Yeah.
how, you know, it.
Anyone, like you could literally be doing anything and you could still be involved in science and you still develop those kind of like science like skills.
Yeah.
What was the background?
So she has a background in broadcast media, business management, growth strategy, and operations. So
No way.
she, you know, went to
Yeah, you wouldn't think someone with broadcasting and business management would go on to make a pretty cool
right.
AR company. Yeah, you wouldn't think that.
Right. So she went to school and she has that tech background, but she also has this business management and this background that seems completely separate from
Yeah.
STEM, but it
Yeah.
really isn't. And so she's
Mm-hmm.
actually the winner of the Women in Innovation and Technology Award from South Australia, and she won that in 2015. She is the youngest TV station CEO in Australian history. So she successfully took Channel 44 from analog to digital.
Mm-hmm.
And she is becoming one of the first TV stations in Australia to live stream their broadcasts. So live streaming is becoming an extremely popular, like with social media.
Yeah.
You see people popping up on live streams all the
Yeah.
time to show
On everything.
on
Like it's
everything.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Facebook, Instagram, everything. I think even Twitter has a live stream, doesn't it?
It could. Honestly, we need to get into that game because it's so important and crucial. But
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where it's still new, we're playing around with it, and like
Mm-hmm.
and
And she's one of the first channels that got live stream.
yeah, exactly.
So is it 24, like, is the channel like running all the time on live stream? Or?
I have no idea. That's a really good question. Let's learn that together. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity.
So she's really, really passionate about gender equality and inspiring other women to achieve their goals, especially in STEM and in innovation and in entrepreneurship. So she's not even just focusing on one thing because she has such...
She's badass.
Oh,
she
yeah.
She's literally doing everything. I'm just like, is there something that she's not doing right now?
I know, seriously. Like, what's wrong with me and why can't I be as good? Like one of those people you want to hate but can't because they're so amazing. And so she's focusing on STEM and STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, art, and math, innovation, and entrepreneurship, because all those things, like, they really do all come together, and they don't have to be
they all
like
connect.
Yeah, they don't have to be these things that are so separate.
So separate, yeah, in a box. Like people, I think, box these certain things like, because you're an artist, you can't do this. Because you're an engineer, you can't do this. And I think it's all about breaking down those boxes because we don't need them.
Yeah, get rid of them.
We don't need these
Unpack,
boxes,
everyone. Yeah. Unpack. So she created, because of her interest in gender equality, she created this organization that... Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. She created an organization which is Australia's first group for women and in augmented reality and in VR. And so that group, their aim is to inspire by providing leadership example, celebrating women's achievements, and contributing to the growth in our expanding community. So that is directly from their community's website. And so she wanted this because the AR community in Australia is kind of small, but it's growing rapidly. Like the
AR is actually growing.
Yeah.
So much. I think it's like being integrated into gaming as well now. You see that with Xbox and all of that, where it's virtual reality.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty much the next big thing, because I think we have like 3D. We even have 4D. I went to the cinema the other, like, couple of weeks ago, and they literally had 4D. So
Jeez.
I think, yeah. You do not want to go to 4D if you're like squeamish or anything, or if you're like eating or drinking a lot, because you see it literally moves back and forth, and you're just like,
oh,
it's like a roller coaster. So I think the next thing is literally virtual reality or augmented reality.
Yeah.
I think that's the next big thing with like TVs, text, all of that. I can imagine it being like pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you see it in apps, like even like what we're talking about with Snapchat. Like,
yeah,
it's silly, but it's there.
Yeah.
Like the tech is
You
there.
don't realize it. Yeah, you don't realize it. You just think like, that's a dancing hot dog. It's funny. I'll just put it on like my cat's head.
Yeah.
You think that, but it's pretty cool. And especially like a woman doing it, and one of the only ones doing it as well.
Right.
And like, she's not just focusing on her business or just about making money. She's literally all about breaking barriers as well.
Yeah. And I'm glad...
So that's why it's so impressive.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought the money thing up as well, because so AR is growing, VR is growing, and she wants to empower these women to get into this community because of how much it's growing and how profitable it's going to be. So it's already worth a lot. But in 2 years, so by 2020, The AR industry is predicted to be worth $150 billion or
That's crazy.
108 billion pounds, which is just insane to me. Like,
Yeah, that is interesting.
I feel like the word million makes more sense and is like
Then
more
billion.
tangible because you
Yeah,
see people on like YouTube with 1 million subscribers, right? So like
yeah,
the million number like feels more tangible, but a billion is
yeah. I can't even
insanity.
imagine. It's like I can't imagine.
Mind blown. Yeah, completely. And so
That's
because
awesome.
of the worth of this industry, Amber Cordo, that's why she's encouraging females to enter the realm because the possibilities, they're endless. Just like what you were
Mhm.
talking about before, they're endless in tech and in education and for opportunities. There's going to be so many jobs that open up because of AR and because of
Mhm.
tech and all those things. And so I kind of wanted to end like talking about Amber with a quote that she has. So this quote is directly from meetup.com/women in AR VR/members. And so that is the group on meetup.com that she created or co-founded, excuse me, for women in AR and VR. And so she says, I'm passionate a bit. I'm passionate a bit. Okay.
I don't think that's what she said.
She didn't say that. I mean, anyway. So she says, I'm passionate about all things AR, VR, empowering women, and believe that this incredible medium has the potential to change the world and people's lives for the better. And I think she's right. I mean, what we're talking about,
Yeah,
just the more that this is developed and the more that it gets into mainstream media, the more that it's going to get into education, that it's going to help
yeah.
girls in tech learn those facial recognition qualities. And
Mhm.
those people in art or those people who feel like science is so out of their reach, like parents, and be
Yeah,
like, no, you guys can learn this. You guys can have fun with your children doing this, or science is creative, and just making it as
yeah,
accessible as bedtime stories.
yeah. I think it's all about having this open mind and not and thinking about the possibilities because we don't even know in like 5 years time there might be this new thing that we could all talk about, that we're all going to be talking about, or we can all like get involved with. So I feel like it's not about just limiting ourselves and saying that, oh, just because I enjoyed this, I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life, and just about
Right.
making most of the opportunities and like just learning more. I feel like because even the more I learn, I feel like I don't know anything about STEM either. Like, not as much as I should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like the more I learn, the more I discover like the different possibilities even I have, or even you might have,
Mm-hmm.
to get into so much different stuff. Just because we did engineering degrees doesn't mean that we can't do something completely
Oh,
different
yeah.
that's not even related, and that's not like, it doesn't have to be so like the road isn't that straight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be you do this, you have to do this. I think if we, as the younger we get, the more curiosity we build, the more questions we ask, the more we're open to things like AR.
Yeah.
I think that's like the first step completely. So the more exposure we can get to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's never too late. Just because you're like in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you can still read up about stuff and still like go for it if you
Yeah.
find it interesting as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that that's so important. Yeah. Getting the exposure, realizing that it's for everyone and that it is accessible. And all you have to do is get curious.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's our message for this episode. Definitely. Get curious.
So thank you guys so much for listening. Until next
Yeah,
week,
thank you.
get curious.
Bye.